Over the past few years, there's been an extraordinary change in the social habits of literally millions of Americans, a change beginning to be reflected in British society too. It's now the done thing among many rich and otherwise respectable Americans to take and to offer cocaine, the white powder that officially is as illegal as it is expensive. The trial of John DeLorean, charged with trafficking in £14 million worth of the drug, has given some insight into how prevalent cocaine now is in California. It's also a symbol of the chic and the fashionable, being particularly used in the entertainment world. This week, the actor Richard Dreyfuss of Jaws and Close Encounters fame was charged with possessing cocaine after a car crash. And earlier this year, the comedian John Belushi, a cult hero in America for his roles in Saturday Night Live and Animal House, died from a mixture of cocaine and heroin. Now, cocaine taking isn't new. It occurred in Victorian England and in Hollywood during the 1930s. But these examples are as nothing compared to the present boom, which is sweeping through every section of society that can afford the drug. Robin Denslow now reports.
Presenting the biggest new money spinner in Hollywood.
God, look at those lines now.
The entertainment phenomenon of the 80s. In Los Angeles and right across America. C17H21NO4, methyl benzoyl ecgonine, a vegetable alkaloid derived from the South American coca plant, cocaine. It's grown mostly in Bolivia and Peru and is processed mostly in Colombia. So US Customs and the Drug Enforcement Agency pay special attention to flights arriving from the capital, Bogota. 290 pounds of the drug were seized at Los Angeles airport from such flights over the past year, a fraction of the 10,000 pounds of cocaine seized by customs across the states. But it's a losing battle. Customs men admit that they find far less than 10% of the drug that's brought in. An estimated 40 tons will be shipped into America this year, and sales on the streets could run at $30 billion. The white powder is 5 times as expensive as gold. An ounce of cocaine like this is worth around £1,300 here. The cocaine is mixed with something like mannitol, and then the cut is placed on a mirror, chopped up with a razor blade, laid out in a line like so. The line is then snorted through the nose with maybe a rolled up note or the inside of a baro tube. It's an expensive high, but out in Los Angeles, as in Miami, New York or Washington, there's no shortage. An estimated 10 million Americans are regular cocaine users, even if it's just the odd sniff with friends at a Saturday night party.
What did you do to your wall?
I had it knocked down.
This all-American group includes a teacher, a nurse, a recording engineer and a photographer. 10 years ago, they might have stuck to smoking marijuana, now the second largest cash crop in California, and considered almost legal in many parts of America. But now they pass round the lines on the mirror.
I might use it maybe twice a month, no more than that. And although there have been times in my life where I've done it every day. I was working in a music studio, so the engineer would come in with a gram and he'd just share it with everybody involved in the session. And we'd take a little break and go down and get high and come back up and work.
Save some for the rest of us.
It's a stimulant, just a general stimulant, much the same as coffee is.
Obviously, there are enough people who use it socially without being addicted to it. It's like alcohol. It's different on the individual. Depending on size, what you do, the amount it's cut by.
I think it's been good for Los Angeles because it keeps the creative output high. It's good for the creative people. I think it keeps them on their toes and then some.
In Los Angeles, you can find cocaine anywhere. At parties given by the rich set up in the Hollywood Hills, where the rock stars and movie stars live, or down by Venice Beach, where the city's eccentrics parade at the weekend.
Found myself, oh, in a restaurant in Venice. I found myself, oh, in a restaurant in Venice.
Something for everybody at Buttonland. Don't be unbuttoned here.
It's a drug with almost no social stigma. So there are cocaine stickers and so-called head shops like Lady Snow, a common name for cocaine, where it's possible to buy the paraphernalia for both users and drug dealers. Everything from the powder with which it's cut through to scales. Like it or not, this is now part of the American lifestyle.
Chop a line now. Cocaine decisions. You are a person with a snow job.
In his studio off Laurel Canyon, Frank Zappa considers a song from his new album to be released next year.
Today will mean a million somewhere else.
Since the 60s, Zappa has satirized the fashions of what he sees as the absurd society around him, with targets ranging from the hippies to the present-day rich middle-class valley girls, and now the cocaine decisions.
So what I do is like folk songs, you know. Something happens and you write a song about it. And America has this for folklore.
Things that you pull out of your nose or where they goes.
You can look at the condition the music industry is in right now and understand that people under the influence of any kind of chemically altering substance are not really equipped to make good decisions, business or otherwise, artistic decisions or aesthetic decisions. And one of the things that this song is talking about is people making expensive ugliness because all of their decisions have been influenced by this drug that puts them on a plane where they're not quite in touch with the way things really are. It's something that happens at all levels of industry, in every industry, not just entertainment. You know, every big executive has got it up his nose, and the doctors that supply them. I mean, let's say that you're in Los Angeles and you get hit by a car and you got to go to an emergency ward. The doctor comes over and you hope he's going to save your life, but he leans over and he looks at your gaping wounds and your blood gushing out and your life rushing away, and he goes, and you know it's not post-nasal drip, you know. This is what you're up against. Now, how are you going to... There are certain functions in a society that a person would like to rely on. You'd like to rely on a doctor being able to fix you up, a dentist maybe to fix your teeth, maybe a lawyer to help you with things that are really legal, an honest judge, you know, all these things, they're gone, folks. It's all gone.
It's not just the Hollywood set who are using cocaine, but inevitably they get all the publicity if they are caught or confess. Cocaine, a drug that promises to make you brighter and more energetic, if a little edgy or paranoid, seems ideally suited to a society that reveres the winners of the moment. After all, it's a stimulant, not a depressant like alcohol. And after all, didn't many of the stars now enshrined on the pavements of Hollywood Boulevard need some crutch to help them cope with the pressures of fame? But there are now claims that in the entertainment industry, cocaine isn't just used socially, like alcohol, but has become almost a form of currency.
I did a story not long ago about the rock and roll industry, about how cocaine was hidden in the budgets of recording studios. That's very easy to do. You end up renting pianos that, of course, don't exist. It's equipment rentals. And the equipment rental people are into it. They get a kickback, you get a kickback. And the next thing you know, the record company's presented with a bill for $1,000 for the rental of a grand piano. And and the grand piano jokes are all over this town.
And the grand piano went up a lot of people's noses.
It's difficult to get a piano up your nose, but somehow they did it, yeah. And the same thing applies in the movie business. If you have, and I'm not singling out any particular part of that business, except to say that there are parts of movie budgets that can get fiddled with.
One of Hollywood's most outspoken campaigners against cocaine and other drugs is actress and producer Susan Newman, Paul Newman's daughter. Her brother Scott died of a drug overdose, and she's now vice president of a foundation set up in his name to warn children of the dangers.
Kids, parents, older people are all turning to cocaine. Marijuana use is actually on the way down.
What about the movie set here, though? Is it something you'd expect to find if you went on a film set or to most parties? I mean, how prevalent is it?
The only story that I've heard directly is the story of a young nurse who came from the non-entertainment community into the entertainment community because there's more money in it. And on the first day on the job, she was told by the producer, this is your legitimate bag with your vitamin B12 and your cold medicine and this and that, and this is your non-legit bag where obviously there were many questionable drugs. She refused...
Including cocaine?
Yes. She was refused employment and basically was not allowed to work in the industry again. She chose also not to because it was her tush on the line rather than the producers.
So she refused to distribute cocaine
Yes.
on the film
Yes.
set, and as a result of that she's been blacked from working?
Yes.
But that was on what, a big feature film? I mean,
A
something
major
we'd all
feature
know about?
film. Yes, a major feature film.
Hollywood may seem drug crazy, but it is, of course, still illegal to sell or even possess cocaine. From this unmarked bungalow, the police narcotics department try to control the drug scene over 130 square miles of Los Angeles.
And that's the house off Sunset.
Okay.
It may not be in his name.
Do you have his license number?
Yeah.
They only have a staff of 22 and a budget of $500 a month to spend on informants. The office is decorated with battle mementos, plans of houses they've raided. But in a town where cocaine possession once meant at least a year in a federal prison and now may mean just over a month in a county jail, the police are beginning to feel that they are right and all of society is wrong.
You take any group of people with money, a large percentage of those people will be using cocaine.
A large? How many is large?
Well, those people who have money in the area that I work, I would say close to 50%. Use it with some frequency.
50% of Hollywood with money breaking the law. What does that mean to law and order within Hollywood if you've got 50% of Hollywood, by very definition now, consorting with criminals, with dealers to get hold of cocaine?
Well, when you consider the overall abuse of all narcotics in the city of Los Angeles, you have a great number of people breaking the law. But it's with narcotics abuse, and that in many ways is not important to our society. It seems that there's that degenerating acceptance of drug abuse. Our entire society seems to be going in that direction.
You can't arrest half of Hollywood, though.
If we saw them all at once, we'd sure try.
But if the police don't catch the rich and overindulgent cocaine users, then maybe their habit will. The smart set like cocaine because, they say, it doesn't harm their looks and makes them eat less and become fashionably wasted. But it can damage their noses, making a hole in the septum between the two nostril passages. If you've got the money to do yourself that damage, you've presumably got the money to have it put right, with a visit to a plastic surgeon in this medical centre on Sunset. Dr. Raja Srao from Beirut is a part-time erotic artist who specialises in remodelling the female anatomy and mending noses.
What it does is that it creates ulcers and later perforations in the septum of their nose.
And how do you mend that?
There are a couple ways of doing it. If it is a small perforation, then we can create local flaps to block it and suture it on both sides of the septum. If it's a larger perforation, then we have to use a Dacron patch, just like to mend heart perforation in children that are born with congenital heart, ventricular or atrial perforations. It's the same material that's used for those operations.
And this is what you do in here?
And we do it right here, and we do it under local anesthesia, and contradictory enough, we give cocaine to numb the nose when we are doing those procedures for nasal operation.
So how much would these patients of yours have been spending on cocaine per day to get themselves in that state?
A fortune.
Roughly how much?
You know, I mean, you have to tabulate really how much they buy the cocaine for, and but I would say some people spend up to $4,000 or $5,000 a week on cocaine.
The hundreds of thousands of cocaine enthusiasts in Los Angeles would argue, for the most part, that it's an entertainment, a social drug, just like alcohol, and they can handle it, whatever the effects on the noses of the more indulgent. It is, they say, not physically addictive. But it can be very psychologically addictive. And in this town of excesses, many of the heavy users find that it's completely taken over their lives. In the 70s, before the present slump in record sales, the music industry was one potential glamorous route to becoming a millionaire. Jeff Wald, a manager and producer, made his million before he was 30. He looked after the career of his former wife, singer Helen Reddy, and currently runs those veteran bestsellers, Crosby, Stills and Nash. In his years at the top, he's been invited to the White House and met leading politicians and world leaders. He's had a brilliant career, but he took cocaine through much of it, with ultimately damaging results.
Robin Williams had the best line. He said, cocaine is God's way of telling you have too much money. And it's the drug of choice right now. It's the in drug. And it's a way of displaying their money, or their lack of regard for their money.
Now, you were a heavy cocaine user.
Moderately heavy.
What did that mean? How much cocaine were you doing?
I would say over a 12-year period, I probably did $1 million worth.
$1 million worth?
Over a 12-year period, which is not, relatively, that's not heavy. There are people who do that in a year, 2 years.
And what effect did it have on you over that period?
No more Mr. Nice Guy. I would say it tended to eventually make my behavior bizarre. Dr. Ron Siegel had a great line about grandiosity. It's the feeling that everybody else is out of step but you. You know, it's on the outer fringes of paranoia. So you're always right. The ability to justify any action, regardless. You know, it made me impulsive, short-tempered, intolerant, shut off. None of which are positive attributes.
Did it help you do a work at all? Or
yeah, no question about it. It enabled me to work 20-hour days, 7 days a week for long periods of time. It enabled me. There is a creativity that you get from the drug. There's no doubt about that. There's a feeling of elation, you know, getting charged up for a meeting, the way a performer gets charged up for a performance, you know, doing a shot of energy, a shot of power, basically.
Wald spent $1 million merely sniffing cocaine. Had he gone on to smoke it, the consequences might have been far worse. This is a kit for freebasing, a complicated ritual in which the cocaine's heated and made more pure and potent as the salts with which it's been mixed are removed. The cocaine's then smoked through a water pipe filled with 151 proof rum. The resulting experience is said to be 10 times as strong as that from sniffing and far more dangerous. At Beverly Glen Hospital, Los Angeles now has the first specialized inpatient cocaine treatment center in America to deal with the cocaine casualties. Therapist Alan Rosenthal also runs a Cocaine Anonymous group on the lines of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Hello, Janet.
Hi, Alan.
His patients are kept away from drugs and made to talk about their problems.
Just a couple hours, you're going to be discharged, going back out there.
I'm taking that, and I never had that before.
Janet Trapp, a part-time singer and executive for an employment agency, has just finished her month-long treatment at the clinic.
It's scary, though.
It's cost $7,000, about the same as 2 grams of cocaine a day for that period. She'll come back to the clinic as an outpatient. But today she's got to go back to live in a town where most people don't regard cocaine as dangerous.
About 6 years ago, I started using cocaine. I was just snorting it, like, through the nostrils. My ex-husband was dealing it, so it was around quite a bit. And from there, I started snorting more and more and more, and I got involved in freebasing. It was costing me I was spending at least out of my own pocket $1,000 a month.
How could you afford that?
Well, we sold a lot of our things. We couldn't afford it. Yes.
Well, you started selling off household possessions?
Yes. You do that with cocaine, just to get more. It makes you crazy.
What did you sell off?
Jewelry, pawn jewelry, and sold a car. And both my husband and I lost houses by cocaine. This is my second husband. I lost my children. They're living with their father. Anything that ever meant anything to me is gone. It starts out as a party drug, and everybody's passing it around, and you end up in a room by yourself with the windows closed and the curtains drawn and looking out the window. I mean, you hear all kinds of sounds. I've known people to feed inanimate objects, such as trees. I mean, you go a little nuts. It sounds, funny, but it's real. It's all real.
And meanwhile, the police have got to enforce a law that hundreds of thousands of people in the city are breaking. At the Pacific Division headquarters, down near the beach at Venice Police Station, Detective John Applegarth has just been granted a search warrant to raid the house of a suspected cocaine dealer.
Me and Steele are going to make entry, the uniform at the door. If it's as small as I think, we'll just take it down to 2 people, get them out of there. It's too close to control them. I mean, they could reach all over there. All the dope's supposed to be in a hidden place in the closet. The snitch on this case had guns. He considers this guy has guns, probably, but he's not. We don't expect him to be violent. It's more because of the neighborhood. Who wants to ride with us?
The narcotics team and local police backup are all armed. They drive quietly through the Venice back streets, trying not to disturb any lookouts.
Hopefully he's there. Everything that we've done up to this point indicates that he is in pocket, that he has dope, and that he is at home.
In the event, there is no shooting. The suspected dealer is out, but his sister and girlfriend are in the flat.
Do you understand what's happening here?
You're searching a place.
Yes, we're serving a search warrant.
What do you got there, Lieutenant?
About an ounce of cocaine.
Can I see?
Sure.
And this was hidden where?
Inside the residence here. We'll show you where it was hidden at a later time. It's about $2,200 an ounce. Sells for about $200 a gram.
If found guilty, what sort of sentence would he receive for selling this much cocaine?
It's very difficult to really say. It depends on his background, how much time he's done before, if he's ever done any time before, if he's done time for drugs versus doing time for burglary, how old he is, what kind of probation report he gets, what judge he's in front of versus another judge. He can get anywhere from 30 days in the county jail to a year in state prison.
Society is becoming more and more lenient to cocaine.
The society includes our judges, it includes our jurors, it includes our district attorneys, it includes anybody that's part of our city structure, including the citizens.
You yourself don't look very happy about that.
No, I'm not very happy about that, but that's the way it is.
So you've raided one small-time pusher this evening. How many more hundreds and hundreds like that are there in Los Angeles?
It'd be in thousands in Los Angeles. They're winning.
From the beginning of next year, California state law will ban the open sale of freebasing and dealers' equipment like this. The move is not expected to have much effect on the cocaine epidemic. Alcohol became legal after prohibition. Marijuana has become almost legal after the clampdowns of the 60s. Could the same really happen to a drug like cocaine?
That report was by Robin Densler.